When I was younger, my mom once told me people aren't bad, they just do bad things. And even though I understood what she was saying, I didn't fully comprehend it like I do now, but those words stuck with me till this very day. And ever since I had my spiritual awakening, aka I woke up and I realized that life is actually spiritual, I was able to gain my own understanding of that phrase. And as literal as that phrase sounds, with a spiritual understanding, it became that much clearer to me. Now, to get into the topic, oftentimes when you hear people say they be fighting demons, I need y'all to really believe it. Like, seriously, believe them. And it's not just some cop-out phrase that they're using. People be real life fighting demons, like, for real. Because again, remember, life is spiritual. And in case you may not understand what I mean by that, let me explain. And if you are religious, please just stick around and listen and open your mind, because a lot of these things are a lot more connected than people want to accept. But I'm not here to convince you, but if you're willing to listen, just stick around, because I feel like if you're religious, you should also have spiritual understanding. Like, with understanding the things that I know, it just doesn't make sense to me that you can be a religious person without any spiritual knowledge. To me, I feel like you are blind because you don't understand the spiritual aspects of life. So if you're willing to not be closed-minded, I promise you it's gonna make sense to you when I explain it. So you can see, meaning your perception, you can touch, meaning external feeling, and you can feel, meaning your internal emotions. Now, to further explain, think of yourself in three parts: mind, body, and soul. So your mind is your thoughts, your understanding, your ability to process and store information, all which resides in your brain. Your body is your physical 3D vessel, and then your soul is your spirit, so your aura, it's who you are at your core, which your spirit resides in your body. So think of when a person passes away, their body is no longer able to function, hence they're passing, right? And due to the body no longer being a function, that means the mind is no longer able to function, because your mind is your brain and your brain is in your body, and if your body doesn't work, then your mind also doesn't work. However, unlike the mind, your spirit still is alive, but you just aren't in your physical body anymore, and it just, separates from your body. And I like to think of the mind as a bridge that connects the physical body and a person's spirit. We are consciousness experiencing life through our physical reality. And while we are experiencing life in the physical realm, we are also simultaneously experiencing it in the spiritual realm. So this basically means that beyond the day-to-day reality that we are seeing and experiencing, like jobs, relationships, money, and success, there is a deeper unseen layer that is guiding and influencing our experiences. Everything that we go through, the people that we meet, the challenges that we face, all have energetic, emotional, and spiritual significance. And y'all, with repeated life experiences, I do not believe in coincidences at all. Nothing is just happening. Every interaction, every delay, every heartbreak may be a small puzzle piece to the bigger picture of some spiritual lesson. So with adapting, I just learned to shift my mindset from why is this happening to me to what can I learn from this in this very moment, and just really examine situations if necessary. And honestly, I feel like ever since I shifted to this mindset, I feel like I just handle conflict a lot better now. Like, things could be going so wrong, but in my mind, I'm not viewing it that way. And because I don't view it like, oh my gosh, why is this happening, I can better process the situation. I can better think of solutions and actually get myself into a better circumstance quicker than I would if you were just like, down about whatever you got going on. But also, to be completely honest, I have this strength because of my belief and my connection to God, or what you would call the divine source, right? And because of that connection, I feel a lot more grounded in making better decisions, because I know that it's coming from a place of connecting with my higher self. And with consciously and intentionally connecting with my higher self, I try my best to protect my mind from all forms of negativity as much as I possibly can. And that protection looks like guarding myself from things that have negative attachments to them, like scary movies or chaotic, toxic content on social media, toxic music, toxic habits, and most importantly, toxic people, okay? Those are all points of entries that allow your spirit to gain some form of negative attachment if you allow it. So after giving the general foundation of understanding how we as people are in the spirit and in the physical and how it connects, let's get back to the whole topic of talking about people fighting demons. Demons are negative spirits that you may not literally literally see, but that you will experience through people, and possibly even yourself if you are self-aware enough to acknowledge that. And for better understanding of all the examples that I'm about to give when it comes to describing spirits, think of spirits as the embodiment or the essence of something. So say for example, if a person is a jealous person, they are dealing with the spirit of jealousy. Or if a person overeats, they are dealing with the spirit of gluttony. Or for like a positive example, if a person is kind, loving, and a genuine person, you will feel like you are experiencing the spirit of God through that person based off of how they're showing up. And another common spirit that we are all familiar with is the spirit of fear, and that can show up as anxiety. However, I feel like when you are operating from an elevated mindset and you are intentionally connecting with God and your higher self, that means that you are operating out of trust and faith. And those are the complete opposite of fear and anxiety, because with that spirit, there's a sense of not being at ease because you feel like something is or will go wrong. And that is why in those moments of feeling those negative but sometimes valid feelings, it is so important to slow down and be present. Acknowledge your feelings and then connect with your higher self and remind yourself that you are safe. And fill your spirit with positivity and all the things that embody the feeling of what God represents, right? Positive things. And that's usually through like prayer, meditation, affirmation, or whatever you want to call it, right? Because it's all the same thing in my opinion. But I know people like their own terms for what they want to call it because it makes them feel like, oh, I'm doing it the proper way. As long as you're using your words, your mind to connect, that's all that matters. Like, it doesn't matter what you want to call it. Similar to affirmations, you are affirming yourself in the spirit of God. But because a lot of people were taught about religion without acknowledging the spiritual side of things, we've been so disconnected from the power that we as people actually hold on a spiritual level. And because of that disconnection without really knowing, a lot of people fall into the trap of being corrupted with negativity. We live in a system known as the Matrix, where the only way this system could successfully operate for the ones who are in control is to control us by keeping us at a low frequency. And when you think about low frequency, think about low spirit, low vibing. So basically, you are not operating from your God energy, but you are operating from your carnal nature. And in case you don't know what that means, let me read it to you just so you could get a better understanding. Your carnal nature refers to the natural human tendency toward earthly desires and impulses, often contrasted with spiritual matters. It's about being focused on physical needs and pleasures rather than higher values or spiritual growth. And in a religious context, it can be described as the human condition after the fall, where humans are prone to sin and inclined towards selfish desires. Examples of carnal nature in action could include indulging in excessive pleasure, focusing solely on material possessions, or prioritizing personal gain over others' well-being. So like I was saying, they have intentionally created a toxic environment for humans to exist in. And because of that, if your spirit is heavy, that affects your health, your decisions, and your ability to manifest or make your dreams come true. And for all the possible reasons that a person can be in uncontrolled or unaddressed distress, all of that can manifest as a spirit of anxiety, the spirit of depression, or just any other ungodly, aka demonic, aka low vibing spirits, which in the spirit realm would be considered fighting demons, because that's what's happening behind the scenes that you just don't see. And then with knowing human nature, when people are not at ease, they will lean into doing things that bring them ease temporarily, right? But oftentimes those are things that are just enhancers to those low vibing spirits manifesting even more in a person's life, like indulging in alcohol, drugs, sex, and even just overeating. These are all things that lower your spiritual defenses, making you more prone to attacks. Because just think about it, when you are drunk or high, you are not allowing yourself to fully connect with God, because God don't want to inhabit spaces like that. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you're filling yourself with those things, you're not creating space for God, because God likes cleanliness, right? And when I talk about God, I'm referring to the spirit of God. And if y'all are into Marvel, like, my favorite Marvel character is Doctor Strange for these specific reasons, honestly. But like, there's a part in the movie where he is like the light being, what you would consider the light being, and then there's like the dark version of him from that like evil book. Think of a person as 100%, and you have like good pouring in and you have evil pouring in. There can be an imbalance, and that's basically what I'm trying to hopefully like get you guys to understand what I'm saying. Like if you are feeling negative, fill your cup up with positivity to like dilute that negativity in you. But a lot of people don't know how to dilute themselves of that negativity, and that negativity tends to corrupt them. So like I was saying, in moments where you are drunk or high and you're not fully connecting to God, you are opening up your vessel to those things, even if you don't mean to, but that's just what you're doing. And oftentimes we hear stories where those are the moments where people are making mistakes that they wish they did not make, because basically they came into agreement with negative attachments that manifested in their life that they may not have meant to come into agreement with. And I'm not here to play holier than thou and say, oh, you can't drink anything or you can't do whatever. That's not what I'm telling y'all. I'm just saying when you partake in those things, you are opening your vessel up. What I am saying is how much you indulge in those things will determine how open you're making your vessel. So basically, if you think about addiction, right? When a person reaches that state, you are basically losing the battle in the spirit, because it's like it overtook you. I hope y'all get what I'm trying to say. Like, I hope I'm not rambling, but like I'm really just trying to make sure y'all understand what I'm trying to say with the different examples so that it's clear what I'm saying. So like I said, when people say they are fighting demons, I need y'all to really believe them. Like, they really be fighting demons, meaning they are fighting things internally, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You just don't see the spiritual fight with your eyes, but you can see the manifestation of it in the physical, because in order for things to happen in the physical, it manifests in the spiritual first. And to further elaborate on the whole addiction thing, if a person were to connect to their higher self through God, like basically there's a mental shift and an internal cleansing that must happen in order to control the flesh. So if a person can push through with trust and faith within themselves through God, then essentially that is you fighting in the spirit against those said demons. And y'all, ever since understanding this, I no longer operate and look at people the same way that I once did. I no longer just look at people from the physical of what I see, but what I feel in the spirit. Like, I look at the spirit that they're operating in, because that will always be reflected in how they're showing up in life. But I will do an entirely separate video on how to actually see people for who they are and not just what they show you, and really just doing a deep dive on judging based on this person's spiritual hygiene. And y'all, this requires discernment and trusting yourself. So once a person starts acting mean or they got like a funny vibe about them, I don't take it personal. I literally look at it as you dealing with something that is bigger than me, and I'm not gonna try to figure that out. Honestly, once I see like the funny vibes, I just remove myself, because I don't have time for that negative energy to rub off on me. Like, you're not about to yuck up my energy. That's how I like to say it. Or like, have you ever noticed a person who like they're just like very uncomfortable when things are calm and at peace? It's almost like their spirit is just disturbed. Like, they don't know how to settle in peace because their spirit truthfully is not at peace. So oftentimes people like that, they be itching to create a disturbance and provoke you, because that would just make them feel better so that they can feed off of your energy. And after this video, I literally have a video about energy vampires, which kind of just ties into what I just said. So y'all stay tuned for that as well. And like I said, many people claim to have a connection with God because they claim a specific religion. But honestly, actions say a lot more than words can say. And let's be realistic and for real here for a second. Life is not linear. So a person is not always going to be expected to be like uppity and always in a good mood and always moving correctly. Because like I said, we are humans and we are flesh, and we live in a system that is just, it's a whole lot of chaos around us. Like they say, we are all sinners, right? Nobody is perfect. I don't think anybody should ever put the pressure on themselves to show up as perfect. But what I'm saying is to show up in the best way that you can in order to have good spiritual hygiene for yourself, which that's also another video that I'm going to talk about. Spiritual hygiene is very important because that's how you keep yourself grounded. So like I was saying, we live in a system that wants to keep us not at ease because that is how they are able to control us. Us being at a lower state is what allows them to be able to feed off of our energy. So when you are operating out of lack, fear, greed, just depression, anxiety, etc., essentially you are easier to control because you lack discipline or even spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical strength. That is why it's so important to truly understand this concept, because I feel like that's how you gain your power back in life. I feel like when I was operating from a state of not really understanding this, I was just existing versus actually living. And that's also another video topic that I'm going to talk about because it all ties into each other. Honestly, like with this content, like I want people to really be able to live past the constraints that they are trying to set on us, that they have set on us. You get what I'm saying? But because of religion and just like their way of teaching us how to look for things outside of ourselves versus understanding that we are all fragments of God. God is with us at all times. I don't want to say like we are God, but like we are one with God. You get what I'm saying? But many people shun the whole like true understanding of spirituality, and they just want to label it demonic. Spirituality is a lot more broad than people like to make it seem, like how they try to portray it on TV with like witchy spell casting and cauldron pots and all that like scary stuff. Like I don't even want to call it scary, but of course like everything is duality, so there's good and bad in everything. So I'm not here to like negate anyone's perception of the demonic side of it, because there is a demonic side to things, but there's also a positive side to it. And I always say everything is about intention. You can pray from religion and pray evil against somebody, and that is, in my opinion, demonic, because why are you even operating from that state? You get what I'm saying? Like if you are so like godly, you would not be wishing bad on a person. So that's what I mean when I say like everything has duality. It's all about your intention. But if only y'all understood how like all of this is so much more connected than like people really truly understand. So that's what I'm going to be focusing my content on. Of course, part of my content, because I feel like I talk about a lot of things on here. I am a very multifaceted person, and I love that, and I hope that y'all enjoy that, because there's a lot to learn on here. I really do want to just share a lot of my knowledge. You acknowledging your true power and your strength is not demonic. Don't let them make you think that. But I really need y'all to think about this. You being led to believe that your own strength is demonic because it benefits the people who are trying to deceive you, that have been deceiving you your whole life, is demonic. Okay, like really just sit on that. But y'all, I'm gonna end this video here. If you stuck around to the very end, thank you for watching this video, and I really hope that this video inspired you to learn and lean more into understanding your power of God through yourself, because God is not outside of you, God is within you. Unlike what they try to tell you, you know, they try to tell you to seek God outside of yourself, but it's just like, no, you have that strength and that power all within you. But it really comes down to you like unlearning a lot of the things that you have been taught, and learn who you truly are as a person and the power that you really hold as a person. You were born with knowing everything that you needed to know before you were programmed to believe something other than what you truly are. You just have to be willing to search for the information in a world full of deception. And like they say, you won't know that you are asleep until you acknowledge that you are asleep, and then you will do the work in order to, you know, like really just learn and, you know, just grow as a person. But anyway, stop being so fearful of what they've taught you to fear, because the people you should fear is the people who have been feeding you information and programming you since you were born. And I'm not talking about family, but I'm talking about the system who programmed family to then program you. If you get the, you know, I hope you're catching on to what I'm saying. But anyways, I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you for watching, and I hope you stay tuned, because like I said, the next video that I have coming up is energy vampires and how to protect yourself from them, and then the list will go on. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one.